Thank you, listeners and affiliates, for making the fishyfins.com internet radio network a success.
Look at her. Holy cow. So we just landed about 150 to 65 pound tarpon. We're now floating to revive her, running her through some water.
Experts selling the only pedal kayaks with a reverse, pedal forward or backwards. Need a paddle fishing board, SUP, or kayak? You need Westwall Boats Shallow.
Well, it's a beautiful Monday morning. I hope everybody's going to get up and go fishing this morning. I got to do a little bit of work. Got a new network to set up in Fort Myers, but what are you going to do? Good day for that too. But I got to talk to the folks over at TNT Bait and Tackle. They're at the foot of the El Jabin Bridge. Folks are doing really good out there. I'll tell you what, he says they're catching sheephead all over the place, up and down the pier on the Mayaca River there, where the El Jabin Bridge goes over on the right side. According to what they're telling me, they're using pieces of shrimp. They're not even using whole shrimp. They put them on a little jig, cast them out there, a couple of pulls, a couple of little jerks of the line, a little twitch, and there's a sheephead. So the sheep's head are really hitting good out there. One guy had a nice little shark he caught out there. He let it go, but it was a pretty little shark. I asked him to send me a picture of it. He probably couldn't figure out how. I was trying to show him how. But really cool, nice day out fishing out there this weekend. So people are really all over the sheep's head, all over the pier, on sharks all over the place. I took a ride with my dad out to Peace River. Didn't do a whole lot up the Peace River. It was pretty breezy Sunday. So we turned around and headed out to the artificial reef. And there were 3 or 4 boats out there, even though it was pretty choppy and pretty breezy. And they were all catching cobia. Every single person I talked to out there had a cobia in the boat or were catching cobia, had them on the line and pulling them down pretty quick. The hardest thing out there on the artificial reef, of course, is keeping fish from going down under the rocks and the structure under there. So these guys are using pretty heavy line and pulling them up pretty quick. A lot of sharks out there, everywhere. Cobia and shark up the Mayaca, up the Peace River, around the artificial reef, the old tire reef. That area is always famous to have, some sharks running around. And so it's really great, no matter what bait you're using, preferably cut bait. Really, if you're playing with cobia and shark, easy to catch them that way. Also, I can't emphasize enough the trout that are all over the place out there. I can't stay away from them. Every time I throw a bait in the water, I get a trout. So I'm trying to find snook and trying to find maybe some big redfish, but keep getting on trout. So I need to switch my baits around a little bit and get on those snook. So yeah, you can get trout all over the place, all over the flats, the shoals up and down the west wall. You get into the Harbor Keys from Pirate Harbor up to Alligator Creek, even around where Colony Point comes out and PGI. There's just trout all over the place up there. Now, talking about PGI and Colony Point, getting into some of those canals in there are snook held up everywhere. And if you like sheephead and even sand brim, I talked to some guys coming out of the canal inlet over on Colony Point. And he had a couple of sand brim in his fish box, and I couldn't believe it. Actually, I haven't seen sand brim in a long time, and they were pretty good sized sand brim, probably about a foot long or so. For sand brim, that's a pretty good size. And so he did pretty good up there. Again, sheep's head and sand brim. He had a couple of mangrove snappers he caught around the bends there. But there's snook held up in all of those canals. I talked to Chris Taylor. He was up in the Mayaca this weekend. He didn't want to know nothing from nothing. He was going fishing. And so he's pulling all kinds of snook and reds out of the Mayaca cutoff. He actually gets bait on the north and the south end of the cutoff on the inlets there. Right now there's bait all over the place out there. Every place you look, there's bait breaking the water and fish after them. So really easy to cast net your own bait if you want to, or head down to a place like TNT. He's got some really nice shiners. He's got really nice sized shrimp. So if you're looking for some good quality shrimp, some good quality live bait, they definitely have some bait tanks full there, and also frozen bait. A lot of these guys catching the sheep's head and the mangrove snappers and these other fish that hang around rocks, they're really happy to have just a piece of shrimp on the hook, not even the whole thing jumping around, so you do really good with that, save yourself a little bit of money. Now also we're going to have Marc come on here later on. Marc just won a tournament on the East Coast, Space Coast of Florida. Great angler, great instructor, and we're going to hear a little bit about that and hear about the winning fish, and we'll have some pictures of that too. And so it should be a great Monday. I'm going to head out and get a little bit of work done. I got to talk to Marc here in about a half hour. Hopefully we'll have everything posted for you by about 9 a.m. this morning. And it's the 14th. It's almost tax time, folks. No, it's not. It's the 13th, isn't it? No, it's the 14th. I better get my taxes done. I'm going to do my taxes, and then I'll talk to Marc. And nah, just kidding. So definitely tax day is tomorrow, so make sure that stuff's sent out. And let's get back to some really important stuff like fishing. So we'll be back in a minute. We're going to talk to Marc. We got a couple more updates. Got a guy down in Pirate Harbor that has a little bait shop down there by Burnstorm Marina, and we're going to start talking to him a couple of times a week and find out what's going on in Pirate Harbor, Burnstorm, Matlacha, and that whole Pine Island area. So that should be awesome. So thank you guys, and I'll be back here in a minute with Marc, and we'll get things going.
Hey Frank, how you doing this morning, buddy?
Hey Marc, good morning to you. Congratulations.
Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate that.
I'll tell you what, that's just awesome. I've read this story here on Facebook that you wrote a couple of times, and it's a great day out there. You really, boy, I bet you're still grinning ear to ear right now.
Yeah, it was a tough day. It was pretty physical, brutal, but it was worth it in the end.
Well, I'll tell you what, you guys that are in the canoes and kayaks, you know, you're not up there on that really tall platform. I mean, some of these guys are up there 20 foot in the air looking around, and like I read in here, I mean, you got to get out of your vehicle and vessel and get out there and walk around on the flats and sneak up on fish, and just awesome. I mean, really awesome.
Yeah, you can't beat the stealth, you know, in a canoe or a kayak. You're so much quieter, and you're working through areas a lot slower. I mean, there's some disadvantages, you know, where you put in, you kind of got to get lucky and land on them because you don't have the range of the guys in the boats. Mm-hmm. But if you know where you're going and you make your decisions wisely, you know, you can do just as well in a canoe or a kayak as the guys in the $50,000 skiffs.
Well, that's just it, you know, like I said, you know, you guys in a kayak and a canoe, when you're out, you got to be a thinker. You got to look around. You really got to be able to remember where you've been, how the land lays, as they say. You know, it's when I'm out there, you know, I'm looking for birds, I'm looking for bait fish jumping around, and I'm heading that way. But you get up in these estuaries like you do, and you're real close to the water, you really got to know what you're doing. That's just awesome, I'll tell you. I was actually looking at the awards and everything. There were a lot of people in that tournament. Were there like about 175 people in there?
I think the grand total was 179 skiffs. There was a lot of kayakers in there as well. It was a good mix of everybody, and they really did it up good. It was a good tournament. Everybody had fun. They gave a lot of stuff away, and it was a good time.
Oh, that's just awesome. Fish Skins hosted it over there, so like I said, that's just awesome. I loved hearing. Well, let me ask you this: when did you really realize that you won? I mean, at what point were you brought a fish up? You went, you know what? This measures. This looks good. I think I'm done.
I honestly had no idea until it happened. Because I had a couple of solid fish, but my trout was 12.5 inches, and I figured that was going to be the Achilles heel for me, but it wound up being enough, and I actually found out this morning that it only beat the second place slam by 1.5 inches. So.
Oh, wow, beautiful. And it beat it, so that's what matters. That's just awesome, though. Well, you know, you never know. When you're in a tournament like that, you just don't know what other people are doing, and you may be having, like you say, a lackluster day or a light day, but other people are maybe having a way worse day. You're having a great day compared to them, but that's just great. I mean, you won it. That's just awesome. I definitely think you're going to be dining out on this for years. That's awesome. Now, let me ask you something. You said you were using actually a combination of Banks baits and
Did I lose you, man?
I think I lost you on our end. Real sorry about that, Marc. We had a couple of phone issues this morning. Marc's been real patient with us, but we'll get him straightened out. Sorry about that, Marc. But yeah,
no problem.
I was reading a combination of the Banks lures and some other bait too. How'd that work out?
Yeah, that worked out great. You know, it was a bait tournament. I'm not a big bait guy, but you know, I wanted to have it in my back pocket just in case. It just kind of leveled. So I brought a half a dozen blue crabs with me. And when I got up to my area, you know, it was 6:05. It was still pitch black, and it's kind of hard to fish artificials when it's pitch black.
Oh, yeah.
But so I just set out a line with a half a crab on it, and I was tossing around the top water, but I wasn't set up for 5 minutes before I got the first fish, and it wasn't a monster. It was a 39-inch red, but that's inches
nice.
towards the slam, and so after that, it was a mission to get the trout. And the one I wound up with was a dink, but it put me 2/3 of the way there. And the drum was probably the hardest because it took me a while to find them, and when I did find them, they were real skittish, and it took some real finesse, about an hour's worth to finally get one to eat. And it wasn't a monster either. He was 31, a chunky little drum, but I figured the trout was going to do me in, but it held up by 1.5 inches, and that's what counts.
It's so hard, when you're getting through a variety of species like that, you got to know where to look, you got to know how to fish them. So yeah, that's incredible. Well, let me ask you this, Marc. That's great, but what about the whole Space Coast there? How you guys doing for a fishing report out there? What's hitting? Where are they at this week?
Man, you really can't go wrong anywhere you go out here. I mean, this is a great time of year. The water's warming up, the bait's coming back thick. Seeing a lot of bait getting slammed, which we haven't seen that for months, and that's a really good thing to see out there. But yeah, you can't go wrong. Mosquito Lagoon, the North Indian River, the Banana River's doing real well right now in the Cocoa Beach area. There's actually bigger trout starting to show up in there in the Thousand Islands area, kind of in the quote-unquote backcountry areas. I've been finding them. There's really big trout everywhere in the system at this time of year, and they're all usually pretty aggressive. They're spawning, so they're kind of trying to put on some weight and some energy for the spawn, and they're eating everything in their path.
Very nice. Yeah, we're seeing the same thing here. There just seems to be trout everywhere right now. With that warm water, all the big fish start moving in on the Gulf side over here. So we're seeing, big cobia, the sharks moving in, now big trout along the flats, grassy flats. So yeah, I bet you that same thing over on the Atlantic side. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yep, and the redfish, they're starting to kind of spread out a little bit. It's good. I mean, it's a great time of year to be out here, and like I say, you can't go wrong anywhere you go. The biggest thing is just to kind of try to find the concentration of bait, and more often than not, you'll find fish staged up around the bait, and you just kind of want to work the area. You either sight fish it or blind cast it with a top water, and the Banks Fender Walker is a great lure to do that with. I mean, it walks the dog just with little effort. And it's a wooden plug, you can't crack it. If you don't lose it to a fish or a tree, it can last you for 10 years or more.
Oh yeah, and it makes a difference. When you're I'm the same thing. When you're on those flats and on the banks out there, you can really cover a lot of water, get a lot of attention with top water out there. And yeah, I've been looking at that walker. That's really a nice bait. I like the size of it, and I like wooden baits. They're heavy, they have good action, you can get good distance out of them when you need to cover some area. And trees, hell, I'll climb up a tree, don't bother me one bit. So I'm not going to lose a lure to a tree. Now fish, you may get away with it, but
it's a great lure, and it does fly. I use a 8-pound braid, and I cast off over half the spool with that thing. It flies. And the top water bite's been really good in the morning, but as the sun comes up, it kind of backs off a little bit as the sun gets higher, and then you kind of want to go subsurface. And there's a lot of good baits by Banks that work for that. I've been using the flat screeper lately, which is his newest bait, and it's a great bait. He's been playing with a lot of colors. And actually in that tournament, I had a few reds come out of left field from 25 feet away to come hit the lure. I mean, they saw it from 25 feet away, which is pretty exceptional. And 3 of them came out of their skin racing each other towards it. So, I mean, you can't underestimate the power of that. That's pretty good.
Oh, that's for sure. Yeah, it definitely gets everything's attention when it hits the water. That's what you want.
Yep, and he's got the Doc Boss, which is kind of more streamlined, a little heavier, but it walks the dog just like a topwater under the water. You just small twitches of the rod, and it darts back and forth. Just looks just like a panic mullet.
Oh yeah, actually I saw some video of that on his website. Go to bankslures.com. He's got some video clips they did at YouTube of that action underwater. Really nice darting action, really effective.
Yeah, that was actually the micro pogie, which is one of the hard baits. It's a lipped hard bait. And it does, man. It can turn around 180 degrees, and it's a great bait. Just the action is second to none on his baits.
Very nice.
Yeah, that's about it. I mean, like I say, you can't anywhere you go on the flats out here, as long as you got potholes and bait, you're going to be in the fish. I mean, it's just a matter of getting out there, taking your time, and just looking for them.
Absolutely, it sounds great. I'll tell you what, I got to get over on that coast and do some fishing. I mean, you guys just, like I said, I always look at your Facebook page, and always got just the biggest trout, biggest reds, just huge fish out there. So I got to get out there.
The thing about that is those are just medium-sized fish for this area, man.
That's the scary part, you know. And you know, like I said, you know, everything on the Atlantic, you're on that big blue water out there, and just everything grows big and beautiful out there. So yeah,
we grow them right out here, man.
Well, Mark, I sure do appreciate it, bud, and just a huge congratulations on that. That's just a great win. Definitely.
I appreciate it, and I want to give a shout out to Ricky Banks, man. Him and his lures and his encouragement. He's a great guy, and he's really supporting me, and I appreciate that. Give a shout out to Sam Magazine, Troy Life. He referred me to you, actually. He's a great guy. Great magazine. SamMagazine.com. Check it out.
Yes.
BanksLures.com and Space Coast Fishing Class. Google it or Facebook it, and you'll find me.
Oh, definitely. It's you know, I remember when I called Sam about finding somebody over there, and Shallow Addiction Magazine, and they're like, you got to talk to Mark. I mean, this guy is just, you know, he's a smart guy. He's informative. He's an instructor. I mean, he's really, this guy is going to be big time. And I was like, well, I'll give it a shot. Let me give him a call and see if you'll want to work with us a little bit. And I'll tell you what, I'm so glad you did. And
yeah, it's fun, man. I appreciate the opportunity, and it's a fun thing.
Well, thanks a lot, Mark. And hey, bud, get down to the bank and deposit some of that. Don't buy all fishing equipment with it. And
it's already in there, man. Ching.
And have a little bit of fun. I sure appreciate it. You guys have a great day out there on the Space Coast, and we'll talk to you probably in about a week or so.
Thank you, buddy. That sounds good.
Thank you, Mark. Have a great day, man. Bye-bye.
Take it easy.
Well, we sure appreciate it, Mark. Mark is a great guy. I'm so glad he won that. You know, if you ever get a chance, you're in Facebook, go to Space Coast Fishing Class in Facebook, and you'll come up with Mark's picture. You can't miss it. He's got a gigantic red. He's holding it up. Just a great class if you're on the Space Coast and you want to learn how to fish and actually get out there and do the fishing. He literally takes you out there, so you got to get ready to get your feet wet and actually go fishing, and teaches you how it's done, shows you the local waters. I mean, the guy's really a smart guy, intelligent, great instructor, and I can see why he's winning tournaments. And I'll tell you, I know we're going to see a lot more of Mark here real quick. So if you get a chance, definitely, you can check him out at our website. It's fishyfins.com, or just go to Facebook and look for Space Coast Fishing Class, and he'll come right up there. And a great guy, and we sure appreciate it, Mark. Good luck at your next tournament, and Banks Lures is fantastic too. You get a chance, you're on the internet, go to bankslures.com, and really has some fantastic baits. They're all made right here in Florida. As you can see, Mark is one of the people that is a pro staffer for Banks Lures, so he's out there testing these baits, seeing what works. And when these guys are pro staffers or winning tournaments using those baits, you know, you got a winning combination there, and definitely a winning bait. So check out Banks Lures. We're trying to get some Banks Lure stuff over here on the West Coast, on the Gulf Coast of Florida. So we'd love to see them around here too. So that's really cool. I'm sure we'll hear a lot more from Mark and see a lot more stuff from Banks Lures. And I sure do appreciate it. Everybody, I want you to have a wonderful day. If you can, get out there and do a little fishing. A bit of an overcast this morning. Again, TNT Bait and Tackle, selling live bait. Always have it available at the foot of the El Jabin Bridge. Great pier fishing out there, so get out there, do a little pier fishing. And we'll be back at you again tomorrow. We appreciate all of our affiliates for supporting us. We've got some new people coming up. It should be great. Can't wait to really get them going. Have Scott Larson coming on board. He's with Impact Lures. We're setting him up right now. And actually, he's a pro rep for a couple of different rod makers, lure manufacturers, a couple of different companies. So, real smart guy too. We can't wait to get him on the phone and get some fishing reports from him. And so we're going to have some stuff from Scott coming up real soon, and a lot more stuff. So we appreciate it. And you know, we'll be out there. If you see me coming up on a boat and you see a guy with a camera and a microphone, it's not the game warden. It's just me. So you know, just be cool and give me a fish story. I'd appreciate it. Have a great day out there fishing.